If you have ever heard of ride-sharing, brace your seatbelt as Elon Musk is about to extend the meaning of the term. He is offering companies the opportunity to carpool to space, and one of the beneficiaries, Varda, is asking SpaceX to send a whole factory to space. Why is this startup asking SpaceX to send a production plant to space? Join us as we explore SpaceX's plan to launch Varda's factory to space. SpaceX might be building the insanely powerful Starship, but it already owns a collection of the most powerful rockets in the world. Its workhorse, the Falcon 9, is 70 meters tall and weighs 549,054 kilograms. But more importantly, it can lift 22,800 kilograms of payload to low Earth orbit and 8,300 kilograms to GTO. Interestingly, SpaceX says it can launch a 4,020-kilogram payload to Mars, although we know which of its rockets is going to the Red Planet. The Falcon 9 is a two-stage rocket with the most expensive parts reusable, which considerably reduces the cost of launches compared to SpaceX's competitors. In fact, the Falcon 9 was the world's first orbital-worthy reusable rocket. There is enough space to carry multiple payloads in the payload with a height of 13.1 meters and a diameter of 5.2 meters. SpaceX even recovers the fairing that holds the payload from the sea and refurbishes it for reuse. The second stage, which delivers the payload to orbit, has a single Merlin vacuum engine that can be restarted multiple times to place multiple payloads into different orbits. This capability allows SpaceX to offer shared rides to space, because each payload can be released at its designated orbit before the second stage moves ahead to deliver the rest. Varda is taking advantage of this ride-sharing program to launch its first production factory to space at a much reduced price. The difference could be as much as $6 million. That is some serious savings for a startup founded late last year and has about $50 million to toy with. Why is Varda sending a factory all the way to space when there is no shortage of land to build here on Earth? Look no further than the mission of the company, which is to build the first space factory. In fact, Varda says it wants to put the first industrial park in orbit. The goal is to unlock the benefits of microgravity for manufacturing things like bioprinted organs or special-purpose semiconductors. It's not like microgravity is not possible here on Earth, but you have to get into space to be sustainable. This is relatively expensive, but Varda is betting there will be enough market for the venture to be sustainable economically. The first launch is scheduled for 2023, and its main purpose is to demonstrate Varda's ability to make stuff in microgravity. Varda's spacecraft will stay in orbit for up to 3 months, after which a re-entry capsule will return the finished product to the Earth after a deorbit maneuver. Will Brewy and Delian Asperhov, the founders of Varda, have direct links with SpaceX. Brewy worked at SpaceX for 6 years, while Asperhov is a principal at Founders Fund, which has invested in SpaceX. However, there is more than familiarity at play in Varda's decision to launch with SpaceX. Since Varda purchased 3 Photon satellite buses from Rocket Lab, it is reasonable to expect Varda to launch with a Rocket Lab-built Electron rocket dedicated to launching small satellites. However, Asperhov claims he was concerned about over-reliance on a single company. That would be too risky because it would be harder to recover from a failure. But that reasoning is apart from the cost saving, because Rocket Lab's Electron launch is quite expensive. Sending a 200-kilogram payload to a sun-synchronous orbit with an Electron rocket is believed to cost in the range of $7.5 million, whereas a shared ride from SpaceX could be as low as $1 million. Of course, an Electron rocket launch is more precise than a Falcon 9 rideshare, but this is a moot point, as the Photon buses Varda purchased come by default with a propulsion system that Varda can use to refine the orbit after it has been dropped off the rideshare. Although even the thrusters might not get used, because Varda's spacecraft factory does not require a specific orbit to work, unlike communications and imaging spacecraft. All Varda needs is for the orbital inclination to be high enough to go over the landing site. Varda's re-entry capsule is to descend on land, not on water, to keep the cost low, but the company has yet to specify where the landing would be in the US. Asperhov says the location would have to be sparsely populated, so it is likely a desert. The Photon bus also comes equipped with solar panels, batteries, and avionics that will support and power any payload on board. In Varda's case, the power system will run the factory in space. Varda is open to launching on Electron in the future. It hasn't decided its launch partner for subsequent flights to orbit because, according to Brewy, the playing field changes rapidly. What Varda is proposing to do is not exactly new. The NASA Russia International Space Station has been hosting payloads from customers they pay who want to produce things in microgravity. The arrangement has been going on for years, and it has kept SpaceX in a lucrative business by delivering whatever these paying clients made in space back to Earth with one of its Dragon capsules. SpaceX has that market all to itself as it owns the only spacecraft capable of returning large amounts of cargo to Earth from space. However, what Varda wants to do differently is cut ISS out of the picture. Other companies performing what amounts to experiments rely on the astronauts on the ISS to come in to troubleshoot when necessary. But Varda is taking the bold step to build its own small satellites with tiny re-entry capsules that can return cargo that weigh up to 100 kilograms to Earth. Varda also wants to make the process faster, that is, launching production to space and returning the finished product to Earth. Asparahov says they judge their success based on the frequency of re-entry because it shows how frequently they can bring value back down to Earth after sending raw materials to space. The co-founder says Varda is different because while other work in space companies focus on products used in space, Varda is about space-made products that will add value to humanity on Earth. The timing is just right for Varda with its 2023 launch. Everything came together as explained by Brewy. He said 5 years ago Varda would not have been able to launch or manufacture in orbit. Prohibitively high costs and regulatory hurdles would have killed it. However, with SpaceX slashing the cost of a launch to space with its ride-sharing program, the FAA's new streamlined regulatory framework, and Biden's executive order on space industrialization, access to space has become cheaper. There will be more of these launches because Varda will send the second and third factories by the end of 2024. Each subsequent launch will build upon the lessons learned from the previous one for a fast development time, similar to how SpaceX operates. Brewy wants to put working hardware in orbit quickly. Varda won't reveal what will be produced in microgravity on this first trip. It avoided being specific by mentioning a range of high-value products from pharmaceuticals to fiber optic. But it is possible Varda doesn't know yet because Asparahov said Varda would make an announcement when it signs a contract with a customer, probably within the next 6 months. But he maintains his company will look to benefit from the work done on the ISS already. He admitted many materials have been produced in microgravity on the ISS already. For now, Varda is concerned with developing the re-entry capsule that will return the finished product to the Earth. This is very challenging because we are talking about hitting the atmosphere at a very high speed, which could cause lots of problems. If the capsule is not well protected during the re-entry, the heat produced could damage Varda's photon buses and their precious content. Recall, SpaceX too has to figure out how to protect its far more robust Starship from the heat of re-entry. The company decided to cover one side of the spacecraft with heat-resistant ceramic tiles, just like the space shuttle had to be covered in tiles too. But Varda could lean on Brewy's experience because he had worked on SpaceX's Cargo Dragon during his stint there. He was able to pinch some Tesla employees too, who now make up part of his 16-man team. By the time Varda launches to space in 2023, Varda's workforce could have grown to more than 40. Since its founding, Varda has raised $53 million. Asparahov claims that what they have raised so far would see them through their first launch or even the second launch too. Tell us what you think of Varda's chances of success with its space factory in the comments.